So today we're going to tie this foam-winged Skwala stone. We're going to tie it on a size 10 hook. So this is a pattern actually my friend Cody, that I used to fish with quite a bit, introduced to me back in like 2007, and for a few years it just cleaned up. I don't know where he got it, if a company tied it or one of his buddies tied it or whatever, but he had a lot of them, and we did really, really well with them. So I basically tried, because I think we ran out after a few years, and again couldn't find them. So I tried to just kind of recollect the best I could, and I've been tying this kind of ever since, probably 2010 or so. Again, this is in the Skwala color because the hatch is coming up here pretty quick, and yeah, we're just gonna bust through this thing real quick. So this is the fly here. Made this one a little fat, so I'm gonna make this next one a little skinnier. So we're just gonna pop this one out. Okay, and we'll throw our hook in the vise. It's that U104 from Umpqua. It's a 3X long. I think it's on the package, I think it says streamer hook, but I just like it, the 3X long, for these stone flies. And then we're using Vivus 12-aught black thread, so we're just gonna get that on there and move it back to the rear of the hook. 12-aught, probably maybe a little bit overkill in this Vivus stuff. It's pretty strong, it's a little bit thick, but anytime I have any foam on the fly, which we're about to tie in right here, I like to have just a little bit stronger thread to make sure it holds on. Okay, so I cut this little piece of foam into kind of like a double diamond shape, and we're just going to tie one of those diamonds on, one of those half diamonds on, and then we're going to take some grizzly barred micro rubber legs. We're going to tie these on for the tail. And I can't actually remember what the original tail material was on this fly, but I've just been using these rubber legs ever since, and they've worked out good for me. If you look at an actual Skwala, the tails are just a little bit lighter than the legs and the rest of the bug. Okay, so it's okay to have these kind of on top of the hook, because we're just gonna fold this foam over. We'll pull those legs back a little bit. Legs, tails. Okay, and we're gonna catch the other diamond of that foam. And now we've created both the egg sac, which is pretty prominent on the Skwala, and the tails. Obviously those are a little long, so I'm just going to pinch them here. Sorry, I'm blocking the camera. Pinch them here. We'll just cut those off. There we go. And the egg sac just kind of helps split those tails. Okay, so the next step is the body. And the original had dubbing on it, which I didn't mind, but I like this 0.5 millimeter razor foam, and so I'm using the yellow, but I colored it with a dark olive Sharpie. And if you look at the bodies, some of them are almost black, but a lot of them are a dark olive. And the reason I'm using the yellow is because I'm hoping that when I wrap, maybe a little bit of this yellow on the side shows through. Okay, so we're going to tie this in with the color facing kind of down, the color that we used, colored it with the Sharpie. We're going to have that kind of facing down, so when we wrap, that color is going to show on top. Okay, and then if we just wrapped it right now, the body would be super skinny, so I'm just going to take some dubbing here, and we're going to create just kind of like a real, I don't want to say super skinny underbody, but we're going to create just a little bit of a underbody. And you can use any dubbing for this. If you have some dubbing that you don't like, it doesn't matter. It's getting 100% covered up, so no big deal on the dubbing that you use. I'm just using the same dubbing that I'm going to use for the thorax. Okay, yeah, so we're just going to create that kind of skinny body all the way up to kind of right where we want to tie the thorax in. Doesn't have to be super tight, doesn't have to look pretty. Just kind of move it up there. Doesn't have to be perfect. When you pull the foam over it, it's going to all look nice and even. I mean, you don't want a bunch of big lumps in there. Like, I'm going to fix that little gap there, but it doesn't have to be like you're making some dry fly body on a Adams for show. Okay, we're getting there. Maybe just a little bit. One more dubbing. One more little deal of dubbing. Might be a little bit fatter at the back there. That's the only issue with tying that foam in back there, but we can adjust that with how tight we pull on the foam. Ideally, we don't want to pull too tight, because when you do that, you're going to lose all that segmentation, and then coloring it was pointless. You might as well just use like a dark olive foam. Okay, so that's about as far as we want to go, is right there. Okay, and then so if you don't do this, these foam bodies kind of blow up on you relatively quickly, so you don't want a ton of super glue on here, but you want just enough to kind of keep it in place. And if you just put it on both sides, it'll kind of spread around as you wrap. Okay, so we're just going to wrap this body. And you could also use your rotary function here, but I like to wrap by hand personally. Okay. And then we're just going to go all the way up through the dubbing to where we tied off. Okay, one last wrap. We're going to cover a little bit of this foam up, so no big deal if the last couple little wraps aren't perfect. So, you can decide if it was worth coloring to get the little ribbing effect. I think it is, but I'm sure the fish don't really care. Just looks a little more natural to me. Okay, so we are right here. Now, call it the foam wing Skwala because I've cut out like a little River Road Creations foam wing. And those wings go about halfway back through the tails. So if I fold this, so they definitely cover the egg sac and they go about halfway back through the tail. Okay. I just used a chubby cutter for that wing. I want it staying down nice because the marker is still a little bit wet, but these want to pop up on you. They want to go like this. No big deal if it does. We're going to tie some other stuff in. Okay, so we got our foam wing tied in. I meant to say we're going to tie some more stuff in. That's going to kind of push it down. Okay, and then the next step is we're going to have like a little, just to really keep this guy floating, we're going to have a little bit of Congo hair plus here. And this is kind of a dual, like I'm already going to tie a parachute post in, so might as well use a little bit on the wing too. It's just going to hold it up for a little bit longer. So same kind of thing. We're going to end up cutting this wing pretty much even with the foam wing, but we just want that right on the top there. And then usually, like if you were tying in like a chubby wing, you would actually double this over and do this. But since this is going to end up being a part of our parachute, it's actually going to be the parachute post. We don't need to do the double over because it's going to be plenty durable. So we're just going to get kind of up to right about the middle of the thorax where we want our parachute post. Pull that tight and tie it in there. It's okay if it rolls just a little bit. We'll fix that in a second. Okay, so right about there in the middle. Take some wraps in front. Okay. And then, not necessarily a little trick, I'm sure you've seen this before, but now that there's all this stuff back here that's kind of in the way, I just take a piece of like lead-free wire and just kind of trap this stuff. And you don't want to wrap super tight, otherwise you're going to put a bunch of dents in your wing, and you probably still will, but basically just want it like that to just kind of keep it out of the way. Now all that stuff's out of the way, and we can just tie freely without worrying about catching a little piece of Congo hair. Okay, so we got our parachute post on. We're gonna make just like a little base of thread. Around our parachute post. Okay. And then I've prepared this. I got this really cool sunburst colored hackle from Fly Fish Food a while back. Already got it pretty much prepared here. Just stripping off. If you want it to look like super crazy delicate, you can strip off this whole side, but I'm just stripping off just a little bit there. Okay, and then there's no exact measurement for this, but I want to go up. Oop, that might have been a little too high there. Up above that wing a little bit, so you get some good hackle wraps in there. I think the hackle, yes, it helps it float a little bit, but also I really like this color because it actually adds, if you look at the legs of a Skwala, they're black, but they have this like sunburst little lining on them. So then we're just going to go up pretty much all the way to where the blank stem ends and the hackle starts. We're just go up and around. I like to pull tight, so I'm like grabbing the parachute post and pulling tight back towards me like pretty much every wrap. Try and do like side by side wraps, like one right next to the other. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Okay, I'm going to let that hang and just see how close I am to my hackle wrapping. Okay, we're getting pretty close. I'm going to do a couple more, couple more little wraps up here. All right, actually I'm going to do this real quick because this one little piece of Congo hair is driving me insane. I think this one's going to do the same thing. Okay. And it might look a little odd that it's up so high, but we are going to, there we go, that's about perfect right there. We're actually going to cover almost like a third of that parachute post with dubbing to keep it even with the body, so that's why it's up so high. Okay, and you could have cut that stem off earlier, cut it off now. Okay, so the last little bit here is just to add the, get rid of these two. Every time I cut one, another one pops out, huh? Kind of fun. Okay. So yeah, last step is basically just create the thorax with this yellow dubbing. If you turn a Skwala over, they got usually a kind of either an olive brown or olivey, kind of, I don't want to say light, but just like real drab olive brown. Sometimes I've even seen them where they're almost black. Body, and then right up at the front of the thorax, they just turn like bright yellow. Sometimes it's like more of like a sunburst yellow. It could be like a bright yellow, but I like this yellow dubbing, and we're actually gonna enhance it a little bit with a Sharpie. I'm just gonna check on the width of the body. That's looking pretty good. Okay. It's another reason I use black thread too, because so the thorax is like a bright yellow. Maybe I'll throw a picture up for you guys so you can see, with usually like a couple black dots on it, kind of right usually where the wings are. Sorry, not the wings, the legs. So like each set of legs has like a little black dot by it. Okay, a little tedious with the dubbing work. The whole head of this fly is just like a little bit tedious, but like I said, they just work so well compared to, like I tied that chubby or scubby the other day. That thing works great for like a week or two. Works really great at the beginning of the hatch, and it's easy to fish and it floats all day. But after the fish have seen not only that scubby, but a ton of other chubbies go by, and just real simple and larger flies. Again, this is a size 10. They start to get pretty wise, and they don't necessarily come up for those flies anymore. Okay, so we're just gonna add some rubber legs here. These are black with red flake. Okay, 2 wraps, and then we're just gonna slide this guy over to right where we want it on the other side of the hook. That one's a little short. Okay. Got those in. And then we are just going to kind of finish up the thorax here. We'll tie over those legs just a little bit, the front pair. So they're up kind of closer to the parachute post. We're going to cover up our dubbing here. Grab a piece of Congo hair there. Okay, and just kind of maneuver these as you tie them in. I like to tie them in so they're kind of like right by that parachute post. Okay. And that's it. Let's see, what is the... Okay, thorax looks good. Okay, now we're going to go back up and around here. Okay, so I'm just going to do 1 wrap. And we are going to turn the hook in the vise so that it is perpendicular, so I can wrap this hackle almost like I'm wrapping it around a hook shank. Okay, so we're set to do that. We're going to actually... I like to add a little super glue to my parachute post. It kind of stiffens up the post, number 1. And number 2, if you just put just a tiny bit there, it's going to secure that hackle really well to the parachute post as well. And it's not going to get on any of the barbs because you're wrapping it. So, yeah. That's what I like to do. Okay. So I'm going to use my hackle pliers since this is off a cape. So this hackle is just a little bit shorter. Okay. And then we are going to wrap that hackle all the way down, touching wraps. It's going to splay out a little bit since we didn't strip one side, but I think it still looks great. All right, I'm starting to see him actually curve up the hackle a little bit, so we're right about where we need to be. Get one more in there. Okay, so I usually do 2 behind, 1 right in front there. Okay, and that locks it in, so now I can pop those hackle pliers off. And then you don't want to take a bunch more wraps here. Just want like 1 behind and 1 in front. Okay, we're going to pop that hackle stem off. Try not to cut a bunch of your hackle while you're doing that. And our last step is we're going to whip finish right on this parachute post. Well, not necessarily the last step, but close to last step. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, pull it tight. I'm going to clip that thread off again. Try and make sure you don't cut a bunch of hackle. The trick for that is don't go in with wide scissors. Go in like this, so you can't grab a bunch of hackle. It prevents you from doing that. Okay, so our real last step is getting this bad boy back up here. We're going to take that lead wire off. We're going to get this thing kind of trimmed up here. Okay, so like I said, get the Congo hair. You want it just about the length of the wing. Okay, that looks good. Obviously our parachute post is way too long. Gather all those up, probably about a 1/4 inch above. You don't really need the parachute post to actually see anything, like actually see the fly. It's just, I like the way that the hackle looks. Okay, and then last step, I know I super glued the under the hackle, but that probably didn't last all the way down to the lead wrap, so I just like to get this solar res bone dry and just put a little dab right on the thread there where we cut our whip finish off. Finish that. Okay, and like I said, Skwala's got like 3 dots. People color on their streamers all the time, so I'm going to color on my dry fly. Just 1, 2, 3 dots, and that first one I'm going to kind of just drag it back into the body a little bit. You maybe get a little black on the. There we go. And that is the finished foam wing Skwala. Cool. I'll put a link to all the materials in the description. Let me know if you guys have any comments, how to tie it, anything I did. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. Thanks for watching.